Good evening, everyone. My name is Sagaraguna from the U.S. Zen Institute, Germantown. This is my second time in this temple, and I have to tell you how impressed I am by this temple. We always have an interesting encounter in this temple. Last year, when I was here, I was with our Abba, Venerable Dhammadippa. That was, I presume, his first time here. And he told me he was prepared fully to present something on Mahayana Buddhism. And upon arrival of this temple, he was totally startled. What? A Vietnamese Theravada temple? Yeah, so I was sitting there, I remember totally. And today, we have this another interesting encounter. We thought all the equipment were with us in the car. And then now the most important projector is missing. So I'll make sure I do remember this temple. I guess most of you can still see the large characters here. Some of you have been following the IBAA study group, probably have noticed I am making a round circle. I'm trying to make a complete presentation of the so-called novices questions. This was a very ancient, short sutra from the Kutta Nikaya. The interesting story behind it, some of you already know it, was that there was a very young boy that normally would not have been allowed to be ordained. But this particular one, Buddha allowed him to be ordained because he was so wise to answer several very crucial questions. 10 of them, actually. And these 10 questions eventually were being documented and become the novices' questions for a very long time, even to this day, including Theravada Samaneras and Mahayana Samaneras are still required to memorize them. The reason I choose to cover all these 10 subjects being that these 10 questions and answers serve as a very concise but rather comprehensive coverage of the basic Buddhism. So far, I have covered from 1 to 6. Tonight, I'm going to talk about what is 7. And it's a good thing we have earlier started today with a short meditation, because today's topic, what is 7, is precisely about meditation. The 7 is about the 7 conducive factors, or put it in a different way, 7 factors conducive to enlightenment. And are you okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Right? So I'm not sure I can cover sufficiently all the 7 factors conducive to enlightenment because it's a long story. But I'll try my best, and I have to make sure I leave enough time for the professor to do his presentation. So here it is that I have covered so far from what is 1, what is 2, what is 3. 1 is that all sentient beings require nutriment to survive. And that comes to 2, the so-called all sentient beings essentially can boil down to nama-rupa, essentially physicality and mentality. If that's still not enough, then we can simply dwell on what is 3 feelings. You can dwell on feelings, meditating on it, then you can verify on your own the Four Noble Truths, which is 4. So that already concludes what particular format of meditation according to these 10 questions. But then, for some people, this is just too concise. They couldn't figure out how to meditating on feelings. So we have what is 5, that is 5 aggregates. That is intended to expand our experiential spheres so that you can use more subject or object for your meditation. So the 5 aggregates actually is an expansion of the nama-rupa. In addition to your mental part, then everything else is based on your experiences. And that is being elaborated by what is six. That's my topic last time, your six sense faculties. In the Nikaya tradition, all that can be delivered, expressed by linguistic expressions cannot go beyond the sense faculties spheres. But of course, there will be something that still can be experienced, but beyond linguistic description, which is Nibbana. And the whole question eventually boils down to how do we achieve that? So now here today we're talking about the seven factors. Okay, these seven factors are purely mental, but they do have a physical foundation. So let me start from a holistic overall coverage of this. Linguistically, in Pali term, this is bojjhanga. Those of you who are familiar with the Nikaya tradition, in the Samyutta Nikaya, there's a whole chapter, I believe it's chapter 46, okay, solely dedicated to the discussion of bojjhanga Samyutta. Essentially, the first part says, Bo denotes enlightenment, whereas Anga means the factors. And you put them together, and following the convention, the pronunciation changed a little bit. Bojjhanga means factors of enlightenment. And essentially, there are more than seven. But according to the sutra, the Buddha repeatedly emphasizing seven. Okay, so for elaboration purposes, we start from the seven. But you probably won't be able to read it. So let me just tell you, instead of going through one by one, I want to tell you something not included in the seven factors, but is the foundation of factors, and we'll reverse the process. The Buddha said, yes, by practicing the seven factors conducive to enlightenment, certainly you can achieve enlightenment. But the practice has a prerequisite condition, which is good companion. If you recall, in the Nikaya, there was a conversation, a dialogue between Ananda and the Buddha, whereas Ananda elaborated about his own practices on civil dharma perspective, and he came to the conclusion that good companion is extremely important to the practice of Dharma. On that occasion, the Buddha very graciously and compassionately corrected him. Ananda, you are not entirely correct. Good companion is not only extremely important to your practice, it's the entirety of your practice. And so, before elaborating on the seven factors conducive to enlightenment, you have to establish that idea. Lacking good companionship would necessarily hampers your entire practice. And next to that, as I have elaborated a little bit earlier, I want to give you a holistic approach. 5 and 6 and now 7. No matter how you elaborate on it, there's always a physical foundation about mind and body and the interaction between the two. So, before you start applying these so-called seven factors of enlightenment, you have to also establish an idea how the mind affects the body. The implication here, oftentimes not explicitly elaborated by the sutra, is that the mind can do bad things to your body. Certainly, but nothing is exclusive. The implication is that by the same token, the mind can also do good things to your body if you know how to apply the doctrine properly. And so, I have utilized two cases here, both drawn from the Samyutta Nikaya. That's right, Samyutta Nikaya. You won't be able to see it, so I'll retell the story to you. The first story from Mahachinda Bojjhana Sutta, whereas the Venerable Mahachinda recited the seven factors of enlightenment to whom? To Buddha. On that occasion, the Buddha was seriously ill, lying on bed, bedridden. People were anxious. They don't know how come this would happen to Buddha. But why did it happen that way is a different story. But on that occasion, after listening to the recitation by the Venerable Mahachinda, the Buddha was totally cured. Shortly after this particular sutra, another instance, this time happened to Mahakassapa. As you know him, one of the most prominent noble disciples, also gravely ill, bedridden. People tried to help him. On that occasion, a different venerable, I don't have to elaborate the name, a different venerable also recited the 7 factors of enlightenment to Mahakassapa. And because of that, he was also cured. Now, I'm not trying to emphasize the magic so-called healing by faith here. But what I want to emphasize is that notice the implication here. Mind and body interacts sometimes in unbelievable way. What we want to emphasize is that by listening to the right instruction and practice properly, you can really put your mind into work that would create good effects to your body. That's our intention here. Right. Earlier I have mentioned instead of going sequentially, I'm going to reverse that. The Buddha, even to the point that shortly before his parinibbana, as you know, we don't usually say that the Buddha died. It doesn't happen that way. Okay, shortly before his parinibbana, Buddha was still emphasizing, trying to summarize what he had experienced and discovered about the truth of Dhamma. And on that occasion, he was still talking about how to cultivate your mental quality, which essentially is all about these 7 factors. So there must be a very good reason why this particular person, the enlightened, great Arahant, was still thinking about these things, trying to get our attention on that subject. Okay, so first one being, Buddhism is fundamentally about achieving enlightenment. Nobody is arguing against that, right? But then, what is impeding people from achieving that? Certainly you have noticed very few people have achieved enlightenment so far. So that goes through the major impediment that have been hampering people's effort. Here is the thing. What is impeding enlightenment for most people is that there was a non-perception of conglomerate nature of the 5 aggregates. We fail to perceive our very existence is actually a temporary conglomeration of the 5 aggregates. Adding to that, the temporary conglomerate of the 5 aggregates was being managed or being polluted, if you will, by sense and object. Some of you were with me during my last presentation talking about 6 sense faculties. Essentially, it's about the influx or outflux of what? Asava, defilements. Only if you can carefully close the window can you impede the dust, expel them outside. If you keep them open, you keep on contaminating yourself. So fail to notice that sense-object relationship. Then we allow ourselves to be impeded. And the 6 sense faculties, the 5 aggregates, if you have failed to perceive them, certainly it will be beyond your imagination that all these temporary compilation of the mentality and physicality are impermanent. You will not be able to notice that. Certainly, it will be hard for you or even inconceivable for you to understand that nothing has intrinsic existence. There is no intrinsic entity of any existence. Now, you have failed all those important concepts and foundation of practice. Certainly, there is no possibility for you to achieve enlightenment. That having said, all right, so it's about these failed perception. What has fed this particular failed perception then? That reverse the process. Nutriment of the above ignorance, a holistic term, okay, all those were failed or didn't have the right knowledge. Nutriment of that ignorance is what? 5 hindrances. Those of you who have been practicing certainly understand. How do we judge? How do you judge by your own? That you have achieved the correct or right concentration. That would be the point that the 5 hindrances have been suppressed, not working, not functioning. And here, precisely because of the existence, the manifestation of the 5 hindrances that have become the nutriment of our ignorance, so that you have failed to acknowledge the true reality of all phenomena. I'll come back to the 5 hindrances later on, but just to refresh your memory, what is it? Craving. You want something that is not present at the moment. Or aversion. You try to reject something that is present but displeasing. Okay? Or your mind, which should have been softened, now becomes hardened, less responsive. Okay, so it hampers your meditation. And you have doubt. Or you are thinking about something in the future, so your mind becomes restless. All these would necessarily so-called clouded your real wisdom, that you become a failing example of seeing things as they truly are. You are looking at impermanent things, assuming they are impermanent. You are looking at a reality without knowing it. Okay, so the 5 hindrances. Still, the 5 hindrances do not come from thin air. What is the nutriment of the hindrances? Let's reverse back again. It would be unwholesome bodily, verbal, and mental deeds. Okay? We routinely try to convince our followers that Buddhism is not that complicated. It's all about trying to render your bodily and verbal expression toward a more wholesome direction. And we don't actually oftentimes emphasize your mental wholesome state. Why? Reason being that with verbal and physical expressions already manifest, mental intention already behind. Without the intention, you wouldn't have that verbal and physical expression. So that was inherent. Thanks being that, all right, so what constitutes wholesome state? Without craving, without aversion, always thinking for others, put yourself in other people's shoes. Without these qualities, guarantee the 5 hindrances would arise, okay, during or outside of meditative circumstances. Still, let's keep on reversing the process. What are the nutriments of the unwholesome bodily, verbal, and mental deeds? Now, that's a crucial part. It was because lack of mindfulness. In Buddhism, the correct path for you to place your thought will be solely on the so-called common characteristics of phenomena, which are nothing is impermanent. Being impermanent, then, they do not have intrinsic existence. Also, being impermanent, that means this very existence always has a pressing, unpleasant effect on you. We call it dukkha. Sometimes, actually oftentimes translated as suffering. But that translation, I really do not like it. Okay? It doesn't convey the word. So let's use dukkha. It essentially describes the fundamentally unsatisfactory nature of our existence. So, lack of mindfulness, you have allowed your mind to go astray out of the right track onto something else. Therefore, then, when you should have guarded your sense faculties, when you should have guarded your mental, physical deeds, you didn't. Therefore, unwholesome deeds become manifest. So that was because of lack of mindfulness. We keep on reversing back. What is the nutriment contributing to this lack of mindfulness? That was because of unsystematic reflection. These were already the first two factors that conducive to enlightenment. And as you can see, lack of these two factors contributing to hindrances or impediment to your enlightenment. By now, you should be able to relate. What if we reverse all these things? That essentially constitutes all the conducive factors to enlightenment. So let's deal with these two. Lack of mindfulness related to unsystematic reflection. Impermanence, let's put it this way. Suppose you were meditating, and let's further suppose within that short 5 minutes, you had a profound, sublime experience. It becomes natural. We are still humans. You really want to reproduce that in the next setting. But then I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. Why? You have failed that systematic investigation. Investigation essentially urges you to always apply the right reasoning. Think about it. Can any two experiences be identical? Can or cannot? You will want it to, but certainly logically cannot. Why? Good meditative experience is mental. Even these 7 factors conducive to enlightenment are mental. Your mind changing second by second. So how can you say the next mental experience is identical? Also, time changes. Your physical existence, the cells, changes second by second. So even if the experience was really extremely similar, you want to say it's identical, strictly speaking, you cannot say that they are identical. So that would be the correct systematic investigation. But as you can see, without being reminded as such, then you will be gone astray into unsystematic investigation. You thought you have a really extremely awesome experience. You want to reproduce that. That idea itself already gone astray. Okay, right? Not on the right track. So these are the reverse description of the 7 factors of enlightenment. If all these reverse situations did not exist, meaning if there is a negation of all these factors, then you have properly produced the factors conducive to enlightenment. You might have some doubt. Why is it Buddhism preferred to express something as negative instead of describing it outright? There's a reason about it. We want to lead you onto something that does not give you the impression that you are producing something. No, there's nothing in the world that you can really produce. Okay, so the idea is that, all right, we have an existing not so good situation. All you have to do is remove that less than ideal situation, then you're on the right track. You are not actually creating something. See what I'm saying? Okay, so that's the reason I want to reverse this process. Now, that having said, I still have to elaborate one by one because there are some really profound teaching about all these individual factors. So, why is it, now we have come to one final point about this reverse reasoning. What is the very fundamental root impediment that lead you onto the road of lacking systematic investigation. Here we are, lack of good companion. Okay, what is good companion then? At least give me some rule of thumb. Okay, I can offer you a very simple one. Elaboration will take a whole hour. Okay, so what constitutes a good companion? It would be the person who holds the food of what? Sublime Dharma. This Dharma, even though you cannot see it in small letter, in the convention of Buddhism, there's a difference between Dharma starts with a D that is in capital or in small letter. When it's in capital letter, it refers directly to Buddha's teaching. Okay? Specifically. If it is lowercase small letter, that indicates all phenomena. So here would be someone has the sublime Dharma in lowercase, meaning this particular person has profound, correct understanding of Buddhism that he can apply the theory, the doctrine, onto all phenomena with deep insight. After that, he can convey his own experience and insight to you, let you understand that, and give you the guidance. Because of this particular good companion, you are able to understand the profound doctrine, and then reasoning the doctrine, whether they are legitimate, authentic, whatsoever. Reasoning with it, and after accepting, okay, these are verifiable, these are feasible, I can actually experience that, you would generate genuine confidence toward the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. We don't say faith. Notice my wording. I've chosen it very carefully. Blind faith never worked in Buddhism. Okay? This happens when you have heard about the doctrine, you have reasoned, you have experimented, and you decided, yes, they are authentic. Now you have confidence. And because of the confidence toward Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, the confidence would give rise to systematic investigation. Then you will try to apply what you have experienced so far onto other phenomena, either during meditation or in your everyday life. Because of the ongoing systematic investigation, you will be able to cultivate the real mindfulness and comprehensive awareness of your existing being. What is my current mental state? What is my current physical state? How are they interacting with each other? For example, again, let's use the meditation as an example. You started with putting your attention on your natural breathing. Suppose instead of practicing the Samadhi or concentration meditation, you are doing insight meditation intended to cultivate your wisdom. What is the proper way to investigate the very natural breathing then? You will start thinking, all right, this whole process of breathing, what kind of physical sensation is it creating? Then you will recall your past experience. My current sensation, is it something totally new or is it something familiar? You keep on investigating to decide, is this sensation momentary or fairly stable? After become positive, all right, it's something relatively constant. You then move on into this particular situation, the general tone of your feeling. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? Is it changing? See, step by step, you keep on investigating what is happening at the very moment to your body and mind. That would be the right way of leading your investigation, and that requires profound teaching, and that requires a good companion. Okay, so step by step, you have the right mindfulness, you have the right comprehension, then you know how to protect your six sense faculties. Close the door, close the window, so that your mind won't be polluted. And because of that, your bodily, verbal, mental volitions will become cleansed, clarified. Now, it will be the good time that you can really practice the 7 factors of enlightenment, which starts, first one, from mindfulness. The English translation of mindfulness really is not the good one. I prefer to use its original Pali term sati. And even sati is not the direct expression. You won't be able to see it. As a convention, we often describe sati as apamada, wherein pamada is lack of mindfulness, and apamada is negation of lack of mindfulness. Put it simply, there's the video recorder, okay? Assuming that you were being assigned to use that particular object as your meditation object. Pamada would be the case that somehow you have lost the image, the idea, the attention on that particular subject. Apamada would be always that particular image and concept, always right in front of you. If you read the Nikaya, it has clear description of this. The Buddha, after finishing the lunch, would sit comfortably, and the next sentence, very importantly, establishing sati in front of him. Those of you who are familiar with meditation will immediately know what does that mean. It was precisely sit comfortably, start doing what? Meditation, wherein you have chosen a mental object. That mental object should be right in front of you and stay that way. Right mindfulness. Okay? Sati essentially means that thing. Right? As I have mentioned earlier, the Buddha, in his final admonition to his disciple, says, quote unquote, transient are all component things. Essentially says, the 5 aggregates, we are a combination of the 5 aggregates. This particular existence is impermanent. This is all you need to know, all you need to contemplate on. The next sentence, work out your deliverance with heedfulness. Essentially means sati. Your mindfulness training should be solely targeting at the impermanent nature of the 5 aggregates. That was Buddha's last doctrinal dissemination. He was not the only one. You will recall another very important disciple of him, Venerable Sariputta, who excelled among all the noble disciples in wisdom. The final bidding, if you will, or the final advice from Sariputta to his fellow disciple was this: strive on with heedfulness. This is my advice to you. Mindfulness. Strive for sati, nothing else. This is how important mindfulness is. As a simile, the ancient Indian tradition requires that if you intend to make a point, a doctrinal point, it's essential you need to come up with a simile that everyone can understand. And this one is very interesting. I believe most of you have tasted the Indian curry. It contains a lot of ingredients. Think about it. Among all those different types of curry, what one particular ingredient must exist? What is that? Think. What is that? Salt. No matter what kind of taste, salt must be there. So salt would be like This is the ingredient that must be present in all different forms of curry. Mindfulness will be the ingredients among all type of meditation. It must be there, even in your everyday life. Okay, that's mindfulness. Briefly, the Buddha was quoted as saying that this practice of mindfulness, or sati, essentially means I'll skip this part. This is the Buddha saying, the practice of mindfulness would be the direct path to awakening. You might have read elsewhere saying that contemplation on mindfulness, or mindfulness contemplation on body, mind, feeling, and Dharma is the only way. That's a sort of a misinterpretation of the original Pali term. The original Pali term about the mindfulness training is that that particular path would lead you directly and in one direction into enlightenment. It does not preclude other pathway. But the implication is that it could have been a winding road, you're taking a different path, but mindful training would be a direct path. Okay, so that's how important, how effective it can be. Buddha further elaborated, if you decidedly, with great energy, take up the meditation training, how long can you achieve enlightenment? Could be 7 eons, could be 7 years, 7 months. It could be as short as 7 days. That's what the Sukha said. Okay? Don't ask me how you can do that. Okay? You may want to try it on your own. Okay? And also for your information, you know that we have many different traditions in monk training. We have the so-called forest tradition, wherein they do not pay much attention to sutra learning. But they always talk about knowledge and awareness. The knowledge they talk about would not be, the mindfulness would not be something based on scriptural understanding, but instead, mindful meditation and knowing, sensing, experiencing the quick or on the moment arising and cessation of bodily and mental experiences. Upon seeing that, identifying that, that would be true knowledge. As you can imagine, without mindfulness, that's not going to happen. So that's the foundation. Then, what would constitute good quality of mindfulness? Certainly, you have some, maybe the state of mindfulness only lasts about 3 seconds, 3 minutes versus 3 hours. There are varying degrees of mindfulness. What would constitute the type of mindfulness that really become or qualify as a factor conducive to enlightenment? Here is the criteria. Again, you won't be able to see it. Number 1, here I'm drawing from Mahasi, Venerable Mahasi. Many of you are quite familiar with this technique. Notice the rising and passing away of hindrances. 5 of them. Note, keep on noting, and be able to find out and discover and mark the rising and passing away of hindrances. Further, less and less disturbed by hindrances. Mentally, that is, you should be able to notice that. Further, object, your meditative object, seems to be sink into the noting mind. As you can perceive, the noting mind seems to be here, the object over there. To start with, there seems to be 2 entities. Then gradually they interact with each other. Gradually they become converged. Lacking better term, because this belongs to something that beyond linguistic description, but experiential. Those of you who are well versed in meditation would know immediately what I am talking about. Okay, so different people will have different way of describing it. Okay, it seems that this particular object is converging toward you, or your noting mind is converging toward that object either way. they seem to become one, even though they have different momentum. Okay, so qualifying all these three conditions, noting that the rising and cessation of five hindrances, noticing that five hindrances become less and less influential on your meditation, and noting that the two, the know in mind, the noting mind, and the noted object almost become one. That kind of mindfulness would qualify as really conducive to enlightenment. Alright, so next, on the foundation of that mindfulness, let's move on into the second factor of enlightenment, that is keen investigation of Dharma. The seven factors of enlightenment essentially refers to insight meditation, although some of the principles can be applied to the so-called Samadhi Concentration. Okay? Here, assuming on the foundation of mindfulness, you decide to investigate what is happening right now on your own body, the experience, be it mental or physical. Two particular dimensions you can work on. Either you can start investigation the particular sensation as relating to the common characteristic of all phenomena, that is impermanent, noting the rising and cessation. Or you can notice the individual characteristic of that particular sensation, say the body. The body is a conglomerate combination of four elements, right? Some solid, some fluid. Then notice, for instance, after sitting for 2 hours, or that's exaggerated, say after sitting for 20 hours, you gotta feel something on your legs. Maybe by that time you're totally dead, okay? You don't feel anything. Anyway, then try to investigate on that particular leg, what is the sensation? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Some things happen only to that particular part of the body. You will not sense the smell on your leg. That happens on your nose. Your leg cannot see things. That happens on your eyes. Okay? These are the specific characteristics that applies to only particular part of your body. All these constitute legitimate object of your meditation, as long as you investigate them step by step. Naturally, if you want to do that, it's a very strenuous process. So that leads us into the next factor. Energy. Without energy, you will not be able to do that. Now, before elaborating on this third factor, I haven't told you that, all right, suppose I'm engaging in so-called systematic investigation. To what point should I move on into the next factor? That's the thing. Okay? First, you'll be able to see clearly the characteristic of the object. That one I have elaborated. Next, see the sudden arising and disappearance of these objects. That would be seeing the Dhamma as they are. That would be the moment you become the so-called stream enterer, which is so essential that it deserves further elaboration. There was an occasion the Buddha asked his disciples, the monks, okay, monks, of course, they responded, Bhante, would you respect me as a Bhante because I have taught you some profound doctrines? The monks answered, no, Bhante. Maybe somewhat surprising to you. Then why? Why are you respecting me as Bhante? Buddha was very happy that those monks answered correctly. He actually elaborated this question with the answers. that I really want to share with you. In all the world, even for worldly knowledges, students eventually respect their teacher because they have tried to apply what they have learned from their teachers onto all possible situations and eventually found what the teacher taught them were applicable, authentic, truthful. They can be verified as such. At that moment, the student will come back and respect their teacher. That was precisely what happened to the monks and the Buddha. The monks respect the Buddha, not because he had something profound that they had never heard of. No, it was because they listened to him, they put those teachings into practice and discovered that it was truthful. And because of that, the Buddha deserved respect. So, why would I want to emphasize this particular story? Upali, one of the noble disciples, before he was ordained as a Sangha member, upon his first access to Buddha's teaching, he was so impressed and expressed his willingness. I want to seek refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Can you take me in as your disciple? Guess what? The Buddha rejected him. Saying what? No. You should conduct a full investigation of the Dhamma. Verify what I have said. Before that, you will not have full confidence. Then you will not be ready to be a Sangha member. So this also partially explains that whenever Buddhist monks say, we have come to a new place, we started disseminate the Dhamma. We were never eager to convert followers from other religions. That was precisely based on Buddha's teaching. No, you teach them the Dhamma, encourage them to investigate fully. When they have confidence, when they have conducted the full investigation, they would naturally seeking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. There is no urgent need to convert them. Okay, so we have been following that particular doctrine. So this is to emphasize that to what extent the proper investigation should we achieve, and what is the implication of this particular factor. All right, there are, in terms of practice, because this is the moment you can see the Dhamma as they are and become the stream enter. So I would also have to advise you what kind of technique can you actually apply the teaching. Two predominant methods. One, I would call it dive in. Okay, so many sensations happening on this physical body. What you need to do is take a close look. Okay, say there is something happening right here, itching. Really? It's just a sensation. Itch is a label. Okay, dive in, take a close look. Different way would be, all right, there is a dangerous inherent tendency if you keep on dive in, pay close attention to what happened to your body, eventually you become attached to the body. You lost the overall object of the meditation. So instead of dive in, you can disengage. Keep a safe distance. Notice, disengage here does not imply you become totally detached. If you do that, you have lost the whole meditation. No, you just keep a safe distance. Okay? Alright, something happening there. It's just a bodily feeling. A feeling is a feeling. It's neutral. Okay? Feeling is never permanent. Therefore, it will change. I will just mark that. Go back to my own meditation. That would be disengage. So either dive in or disengage. They lead to different tracks of investigation, but equally effective. Alright? So that's a strenuous process. Then it takes energy. Again, let me cite a general feature of the Nikaya Sutra. Whenever there's mentioning about meditation, either right before it or immediately after it, there will be a short but very important description describing ardent, mindful, leaving behind worldly concerns. Then start meditating. Oftentimes you will just slip through, saying, okay, sure, I have to be ardent, I have to be mindful, then I have to put those concerns behind. Actually, that particular three phrases is referring to different stages of meditation. Yes, first you have to have that aspiration. I really want to give it a try. And then what would make that try productive with good mindfulness? What is the result of that aspiration and effort? It would have the positive result that you can really get rid of your worldly anxiety. That effect actually happened to you. Okay? So this is how important of that particular energy. At least you can see the large characters. Okay? There's an old saying in China by not just one, but several philosophers. It essentially translated into, if you are standing idling on the spot and thinking about a remote destination, it's useless. It will be far less useful than get moving immediately, which will guarantee your arrival. Same thing. Okay, thinking about the goal is useless. Okay, get going with it. Still, to make the long story short, the essential quality about energy is apply moderate effort, just right. What happens if you apply the energy too tight? Your mind becomes restless. What happens if you're not exerting enough energy? It becomes hardened, less responsive. Put it plainly, you become sleepy. Okay, it must be just about right. There's a simile in the Nikaya Sutra that Buddha instructed one of his followers, who eventually became Arahant, that he used to be a magician. He said that when you are tuning up your musical instrument, what will happen if you pull the string too tight? It broke. What will happen if you pull the string too loose? It doesn't create the right sound. Okay? Same thing to meditation. Okay? So that's about energy. We can quickly go through that. With the proper energy, proper instruction of investigation, we have come to the fourth element of enlightenment. I think after this one, I'll just stop. I have to preserve enough time for the
Bhante, please go. It's okay.
It's way too long. I have almost 28 slides, and I'm only halfway. It would take way too long. Okay. The fourth factor of enlightenment happened to be also the key factor to achieve concentration. Be it insight meditation or the so-called Samadhi meditation, you have to have this delight, sometimes translated as rapture. If you have been, say, practicing the Brahma Vihara, the four sublime abidings, one of them is precisely delight. Okay, without moving into this particular spot, that your mind have that delighted feeling, it's not equal, it's not equivalent to pleasure. Pleasure, be it bodily or mentally, are temporary. They changes quickly. They changes with outside conditions. While delight specifically refers to a mental state that is relatively tranquil and constant. Okay? Removing outer conditions, it still remains. Okay? This mental delight is the essential factor. Without this particular factor, what will happen? You quickly give rise to an aversion to meditation. You no longer feel the meditation is interested. You quickly disengage yourself to the extent you totally give it up. And those of you, either beginners or very experienced practitioners, I believe if you have all gone through that particular stage, without experiencing the first really awesome experience, there is no further motivation for you to keep on practicing. Okay, that can be likened to this kind of feeling, delight. So, to make the long story short again, you feel contented with this delighted feeling. That would give you the energy to keep on training your mind to the extent it becomes so steady, so constant, effortlessly to go on with the meditation. That becomes concentration. And that concentration, if eventually you give out the even slightest sensation of feeling pleasant or unpleasant, that becomes equanimity. That will be the final two factors of enlightenment. Okay, I wish I had other opportunities some other day to go through all the 7 factors in a more complete fashion. But today I think that would suffice. You have to reach this particular stage of tranquilizing your mind to the extent that you feel delight. Hopefully, even without a full picture, these particular 4 factors will already give you some insight about how you train your mind and how you apply the Buddha's teaching appropriately. Okay, I'll conclude my presentation with this.
Sadhu, sadhu.